People got laughed at in comment sections for some of these theories. Now, every single one of them is confirmed by actual trailer footage. Today, we're going through the 20 craziest GTA 6 predictions that actually turned out to be true. 1. The washing machine icon meant money laundering. When the 2022 leak first dropped, someone spotted a washing machine icon with a $sign next to a purchasable car wash. That's it. One tiny icon buried in 90 clips of footage that most people watched once and moved on from without pausing to think about what any single detail actually meant. A lot of people thought the theory built around it was a stretch, that a single icon couldn't possibly mean an entire economy was being rebuilt around dirty and clean money running through separate systems. Years later, everything we know about GTA 6's economy points to exactly that. Cash from crime needs to be laundered through a real business before you can spend it freely. The people defending this theory got dragged in comment sections for years, and they were right the entire time. It's rare for a whole economic system to get correctly guessed off one icon most people scrolled past without a second look. Some fans built entire spreadsheets trying to track every location that icon might apply to, long before anyone had proof it mattered at all. And looking back now, those spreadsheets read like they were written by someone who had already seen the final game. It's the kind of detail that only stands out once you already know what to look for, which makes the original discovery even more impressive in hindsight. 2. The weight system was coming back for most of the last decade. Fans argued online about whether Rockstar would ever bring back the ability for your character to get fat or jacked. A system that existed in San Andreas and then completely vanished for 2 straight games without any real explanation given by the studio. Most people assumed it was gone for good, cut for being too complicated to animate properly at a bigger scale with more detailed character models than the older games ever had to deal with. Then Trailer 2 shows Jason bench pressing over 100 kilos on Ocean Beach, and NPCs around him range from lean to noticeably heavier. The system nobody thought was coming back is back. People who kept bringing this up on every single trailer breakdown for years finally have their answer, after being told for a long time that they were just chasing nostalgia for a feature that was never coming back. Some of these same fans have been posting the exact same comment under every GTA 6 video since 2013, and it turns out they were simply early. It's a rare moment where sticking to the same argument for over a decade actually paid off, instead of just becoming a running joke in the comment section. 3. Georgia was secretly part of the map. This one sounded made up when people first suggested it. A background truck in Trailer 2 has a plate reading "Discover Gloriana," matching Georgia-style plates already spotted in official screenshots months earlier. Fans speculated this meant the state right next to Leonida actually exists somewhere in the game's lore, even if players never physically drive there during the story. People called this reaching at the time, arguing a background prop this small couldn't possibly carry any real meaning. Turns out Rockstar built out an entire neighboring state just for background license plates, which is either an insane amount of detail or proof there's more map than anyone realizes right now. Either way, nobody expected a random truck plate to spark this much debate 2 years later, and it's now become one of the most cited pieces of evidence for a bigger world existing outside the playable map fans have actually explored so far. Some people are already trying to guess what a version of this neighboring state might look like based purely on a handful of plate designs. 4. NPCs would fight. Exactly like the player fans have complained for years that enemy AI in GTA 5 basically just stood behind a car and shot in your general direction without doing anything creative. People speculated that the next game would finally let enemies use the same advanced movement players get. Climbing on vehicles, jumping between cars, all of it working both ways instead of just one. That sounded optimistic at best, since most Rockstar games have kept enemy AI fairly basic compared to the movement options given to the player character. Trailer 2 shows an NPC climbing onto the window of a moving car to fire a rifle, the exact same move Jason uses earlier in the same trailer during his own drive-by sequence. Enemies copying player mechanics used to be a wish list item nobody expected Rockstar to actually deliver on. Now it's confirmed footage sitting right there for anyone to see, and it means fights are going to feel a lot less one-sided than they used to for over a decade straight. A shootout where the other side can pull off the same tricks you can is a completely different challenge than the cover-shooting GTA 5. Train players to expect from every single encounter. 5. Vehicle damage would actually stick around. A5 always reset vehicles to a clean state the second a mission or cutscene changed, no matter how wrecked they were a moment earlier in the exact same sequence. Fans speculated that newer hardware would finally let damage carry through an entire sequence instead of resetting between shots without warning or explanation. Trailer 2 shows Lucia sitting in the back of a truck that's missing half its roof from earlier in the same chase, and the damage never gets fixed. It just stays there, exactly like fans hoped it eventually would after years of complaining. People had pointed this exact inconsistency out in GTA 5 breakdown videos for years, and seeing it finally addressed feels like a direct response to that criticism, even if nobody at Rockstar ever confirmed they were actually listening to any of it. A wrecked vehicle staying wrecked sounds like a small thing until you actually notice how much it changes the way an entire chase sequence feels once it's over. 6. Lucia's prison time would be playable. A single background screenshot showed Lucia surrounded by other inmates, and fans jumped straight to a wild theory almost immediately, treating it as a strong enough clue to build an entire prediction video around. What if her prison sentence wasn't just a line of backstory, but an actual section of the game you play through yourself, start to finish, complete with its own missions and its own set of characters? No GTA protagonist has ever had their prison time treated as anything more than a quick cutscene explaining how they got there. If this theory holds up, and everything so far suggests it will, Lucia's arc would be the first time the series lets players experience prison directly instead of hearing about it after the fact through a few lines of dialogue. A lot of people dismiss this as reading way too much into a single blurry shot, but the more screenshots that surface, the more it looks like they were onto something real from the very beginning. If this actually plays out the way the community expects, it would completely change the pacing of the story compared to how quickly past games have moved past a character's legal trouble. 7. The Metro was hidden in concept art. The whole time, long before any trailer confirmed it, a handful of fans noticed thin rail lines drawn into early concept art and guessed a full working Metro system was coming, similar to the trains in Red Dead Redemption 2 that players could actually ride between missions. Most people brushed this off as overanalyzing background scenery that probably meant nothing at all in the bigger picture. Trailer 2 shows an actual functioning metro rail moving through the city, matching the real Miami Metro almost exactly down to the color scheme. A theory built on a few pencil lines turned into a confirmed transportation system, and it's a good reminder that some of the smallest details in early artwork end up carrying real weight once the actual game starts taking shape years later. Concept art usually gets treated as loose inspiration rather than an accurate blueprint, which makes this particular case stand out even more. 8. Character bios secretly mapped out the entire economy. After the official website posted bios for Jason, Lucia, Brian, Booby Ike, and Raul Bautista, a few fans noticed something odd buried in the wording. Every single character represented a different level of criminal activity, street crime, organized crime, and legitimate business, almost like each one was a walking example of a different stage in the same connected system. People called this overthinking a handful of marketing paragraphs written purely to introduce the cast. It turned out to be an accurate map of the entire three-tier economy Rockstar built the whole game around, and it's honestly impressive that anyone managed to pull a full economic structure out of what most people treated as simple character introductions with no deeper meaning attached to them. Reading 5 separate bios side by side and spotting a pattern like this takes a level of attention most people just don't bring to marketing copy. 9. Different gangs would actually control different areas. Fans spent hours cross-referencing murals, tattoos, and background details across dozens of separate screenshots, trying to connect gangs like Sun for Sun and the Final Chapter Motorcycle Club to specific parts of the map based on nothing but visual clues most people would have scrolled straight past without a second thought. People speculated this meant a turf system was coming, something GTA 5 never bothered with beyond a bit of flavor text scattered around Los Santos with no real gameplay attached. That theory sounded like a stretch built on fan fiction more than actual evidence at the time it first showed up online. Everything revealed since lines up with it almost perfectly, suggesting reputation and territory are going to matter this time around in a way the series has never really committed to before across any previous entry. Walking into the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time could genuinely have consequences that follow you into a completely different part of the map later. 10. GTA Online was secretly testing GTA 6's economy. When the Money Fronts update hit GTA Online in 2025, most players treated it as just another content drop with nothing bigger behind it than a fresh way to earn cash. A smaller group of fans pointed out the heat mechanic tied to businesses looked suspiciously like a live test run for GTA 6's laundering system running on actual player behavior. Laundering money filled a bar, and hitting the top got your business raided by police, forcing a real balance between legal and illegal activity. People calling this a preview sounded like they were reaching for connections that weren't there at the time. Turns out they were watching Rockstar rehearse the exact system months in advance, using real player data to fine-tune something that wouldn't even be officially confirmed until much later down the line. It's a pretty clever move on Rockstar's part too, letting millions of players stress test a mechanic before it ever has to work perfectly in a single-player campaign. 11. Drive-bys would get a full animation overhaul. Leaked footage from 2022 showed early animation tests of a character leaning far out of a car window during a drive-by shooting sequence that looked completely different from anything in GTA 5. Fans argued this meant the entire mechanic was getting rebuilt from scratch, since GTA 5's version always looked stiff and robotic in comparison to how a real drive-by would actually look in motion. That felt like optimistic guessing at the time, based on low-quality leaked clips nobody could properly verify. Trailer 2 confirms it directly, with Jason leaning his entire upper body out of the window during a shooting sequence, matching the leaked animation almost exactly, years after it first surfaced online in footage most people assumed was placeholder content. Watching an animation survive that long without any noticeable changes says a lot about how locked in the core gameplay actually was even during the earliest stages of development. 12. Jumping between moving cars was coming from RDR2, the second Red Dead Redemption. 2. Let players jump between horses mid-chase. Fans started asking if the next GTA would build a car version of the same mechanic for a completely different type of vehicle. That felt like wishful thinking, since jumping between fast-moving vehicles is a lot harder to pull off believably than jumping between horses moving at a slower, more predictable pace on open terrain. Trailer 2 shows Jason leaping from one moving car to another during a chase scene, exactly the kind of upgrade people have been asking Rockstar to build for years. A feature people hoped would carry over from a completely different game actually made the jump, proving Rockstar is willing to borrow successful ideas across their different franchises when it genuinely makes sense to do so. It's the kind of mechanic that sounds simple in a trailer clip, but could end up completely changing how chase missions are designed from the ground up. 13. A patent predicted over 700 buildings you could enter before any trailer existed. A small group of fans dug through public patent filings and found one describing technology for generating building interiors automatically instead of building them all by hand, one at a time, a process most large open-world games still rely on almost entirely to this day. People speculated this meant an enormous number of enterable buildings was coming, way more than GTA 5 ever attempted across its entire decade-long lifespan on multiple console generations. That sounded like an exaggeration based on legal paperwork nobody outside the community had even read closely or understood. It turned out to be completely accurate, with over 700 enterable interiors now confirmed across the map. A number that would have sounded absurd if anyone had claimed it back in 2022 without any evidence to back it up. Even people inside the community who found the patent originally admitted they expected the final number to end up smaller once actual development constraints kicked in. 14. The grenade launcher would survive. Years of development leaked 2022 footage showed a grenade launcher as part of the weapon lineup during a short combat sequence buried deep in the footage. Fans debated for years whether it would actually make it to release or get cut without any explanation, since a lot of weapons shown in early builds never survived to the final product once development priorities shift around. People betting it would stay in the game were treated as overly hopeful by most of the community at the time. Trailer 2 shows it appearing again during an explosion sequence, confirming this specific weapon made it through the entire development cycle completely unchanged, exactly as it looked back when the footage first leaked years earlier under very different circumstances entirely. Weapons this specific rarely survive years of internal changes without at least some visual redesign along the way. 15. Trust between Jason and Lucia was an actual mechanic. After Trailer 1, fans noticed how often the dialogue circled back to trust and loyalty between the two leads across nearly every single scene they shared together. Some people speculated this wasn't just writing flavor, but an actual system that would shape missions or even the ending itself, depending on player choices. That felt like a big leap from a couple of lines of dialogue picked apart on a forum thread nobody outside the community ever saw. Trailer 2 doubles down on the exact same theme with lines like, "We got this" and "We got it," reinforcing the theory the community built out of almost nothing, using dialogue patterns most casual viewers would never think twice about while watching the trailer for the first time. If Rockstar keeps building on this idea, trust could end up shaping entire mission structures instead of just showing up in a handful of throwaway lines. 16. Lighting would react to nearly everything. On screen, early Rockstar tech demos hinted at lighting far beyond anything GTA 5 could handle on older hardware, and fans speculated the next game would push ray tracing further than any open-world title had ever attempted before on any platform, including games built specifically to show off the technology as their main selling point. People argued about this for years based purely on a few minutes of unrelated demo footage that wasn't even confirmed to be running on the actual game engine at the time it first surfaced. Trailer 2 backs it up completely, with light bending through beer bottles, reflections shifting depending on camera position, and shadows reacting naturally to nearly every object in every single scene shown so far across either trailer released to date. Most people watching those old demos saw impressive graphics, but the fans predicting exactly how this would show up in real gameplay were reading way more into it than anyone gave them credit for at the time. 17. Community service would actually connect to the story. After Lucia's official character bio dropped, fans guessed her legal consequences wouldn't just be a throwaway detail, but something that ties directly into other characters across the wider cast of the story. That sounded like a small thing to build a theory around at the time it was first suggested online. Trailer 2 shows her doing community service while wearing a hat branded with Brian's business, linking her punishment directly to the wider cast instead of treating it as background noise nobody was supposed to notice. A minor guess about a hat turned into confirmed continuity between two major characters who hadn't even shared a scene together yet at that point in the marketing. It's a small enough detail that most people would have never connected it on their own, which makes the original guess even more impressive looking back. 18. The shipping container. Loot would make it to the final game. Back in 2022, leaked footage showed Jason opening a shipping container and finding a bike along with gold bars hidden inside during a short sequence most people barely remembered afterward. Fans wondered whether this exact moment would survive years of changes or disappear during development without a trace, the way a lot of early leaked content does once a project moves closer to release. Based on how much Trailer 2 focuses on ports, containers, and smuggling throughout multiple separate scenes, that specific mechanic looks like it carried over fully intact, exactly the way it was shown in footage that leaked 3 years earlier under very different circumstances than what we're seeing now. It's genuinely rare for a specific mission beat like this to survive that long without getting reworked or dropped entirely somewhere along the way. 19. Jason and Lucia would have a pet. In the final game, vague comments in old interviews hinted that Rockstar wanted this world to feel more personal and lived in than GTA 5 ever did across its entire runtime. A small group of fans took that as a sign pets or home customization might become real systems, not just background decoration sitting in a cutscene somewhere for a single scene. That felt like a stretch built on a couple of carefully worded sentences from a developer interview that could have meant almost anything at all. Trailer 2 shows Jason and Lucia with an actual pet snake in their apartment, confirming a guess built almost entirely on reading between the lines of a quote, "Nobody expected to matter this much years down the line." Small details like this one usually mean there's an even bigger system waiting behind the scenes that just hasn't been shown yet. 20. New weather types, beyond rain, and sun were coming. Weather modders and data miners argued for years that GTA 6 would introduce atmospheric effects GTA 5 never had, based on engine capabilities glimpsed in early technical demonstrations that had nothing directly to do with the game itself at the time they were shown. People speculated specific effects like heavy fog based purely on how much the marketing kept emphasizing Florida's humidity and swampland throughout every piece of promotional material released so far since the very first trailer. Trailer 2 shows buildings barely visible through what looks like thick fog rather than clouds during one specific scene near the end of the footage. A theory built on guessing what humid Florida weather might look like in-game turned out to be exactly right. Down to the specific type of weather nobody officially confirmed until this exact trailer dropped. Considering how much attention Rockstar puts into small environmental effects, there's a good chance thunderstorms and hurricanes could show up in the final game too, given how central weather clearly is to the whole setting. If this many wild guesses turned out true already, there's a good chance a few more are still floating around out there, waiting to get confirmed once the full game finally releases sometime next year. Let me know which one of these surprised you the most, and subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this before GTA 6 launches.